Brian was bored. Like, really fucking bored. He'd done fuck all since getting fired from the golf course. And since Aiden was involved, well, their parents had decided the best thing they could do was separate the two. That didn't, however, stop them from communicating through the various means they had at hand. Cell phones, computers, and no one watched them at school. They ate lunch together every day. Inseparable friends are inseparable. Or so the memes go. It is what it is. He laid on his bed, staring up at his blacklight posters, wishing for night. Jimi Hendrix's face would glow that neon blue, asking, begging, "Are you experienced?" And Brian thought, no, but one day I'll touch a girl's whatever. He was still grounded and furious at his parents for removing his game privileges. Staring at the square of dust where his Xbox used to sit, on his TV stand, he ached for GTA 5. He ached for Skyrim. Hell, he even ached for some good old Minecraft. Most of all, he ached just to sit around and talk to his friend about nothing. Just then, a furious buzzing shook his thigh. He had had the phone on vibrate to ensure that his parents couldn't hear. Thing was, they always asked, "Are you talking to Aiden?" He vibrated, so he wouldn't have to lie to either of them. It was Aiden, of course. Of course it was Aiden. He thumbed the answer button with glee. "Dude, we are hanging out tonight. That is all." Brian, amused, said, "That can't be all. When and where and what are we doing? And how won't our parents find out?" Aiden sighed. "I have an idea, and it's a good one, too." "Dude, why are you being so cryptic? What is it?" Aiden, incredulous, asked. "Do you want to hang out or not? It's been forever." Yeah? When?" Brian asked, excited. "Tonight. I'll call you. Just go out the window and go to Crossroads." Crossroads was a liquor store not far from where they both lived. The thought of that place dredged up old times of them standing outside asking the local drunk to buy them alcohol and cigarettes. He always obliged so long as they chipped in for his beers. They had no money now that both of them were out of work. Brian wondered at this. What could we possibly do tonight without any money? Night fishing? That was probably it. Many a night they had snuck out in their PJs and cast into the local river over and over and over again by the light of one of the few sodium arc lamps that lit the street of their town. "Yeah, I'll meet you there," Brian said and hung up the phone. Aiden had been excited since the moment it happened. His sister left for college. Not that she left for college, because of course he would miss her, but what she had left behind. She said he could have her bedroom. She wasn't one to wax nostalgic about her old room. She didn't care if it stayed purple or not, and had always said that he could have it for his masturbatorium, as she called it. "I know what little boys do," she said, and laughed. He was glad his parents hadn't rescinded this deal because of the golf cart incident, and furiously began helping her empty out all of her things. He didn't mind purple, not at all, but that doll, that fucking baby doll. He remembered the first time he had seen the fucking thing, its head lolling to and fro when she would carry it around. When she held it horizontally, its eyes would shut, and when she would speak through it, a short phase she went through when she turned 10, its baby blues would bore a hole right through Aiden. Terrified, he would run away and hide in his closet, his future masturbatorium. It was the thing about art. It lives and breathes and says, "I'm Talkie Tina, and I'm going to kill you." Or, "Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?" When he pulled it off the shelf where it had lain since she grew out of the damn thing, he ruffled its curly hair, disturbing the dust that had settled there over the years, and said, "You deserve a nice send-off, you scary little thing." It was heavy, like a real baby. Aiden knew from experience that babies were delicate, heavy, and doughy. He had held Brian's little brother shortly after he was born. That's probably why he hated the thing so fucking much. It just felt so doughy, real, creepy. After sunset, Brian paced his room for a while, thinking, I can't call him. I'm sure he'll call. Maybe his mom found out and is grounding him doubly for even trying. Maybe. Just then, his phone vibrated. He thumbed the answer without even looking. Hey, head out now. I'll be there in 15 minutes. He shouldered his backpack, excited, stepped out of the window onto the second floor landing and began to climb down the trellis. Just as he was wondering how many times he could climb down that rickety trellis before it became unhinged and broke off from the house, he heard his father's voice from the porch. Brian looked down. "Hi," he said. His father repeated, "You know, if your mom found out you snuck out, she'd be pissed. And if she found out you were sneaking out to hang out with Aiden, even more so." Brian was halfway in between his room and the ground, poised in ivy leaves. His father peeked out his head and looked up at his boy, awkwardly gripping the side of the house. "Go," he said. "Really, Dad?" "Yes, go. I'll cover for you." He climbed all the way down, half expecting his father to say, "Nah, I'm just kidding. Get your ass back up there. And give me your phone while you're at it." He stood there in the middle of a few shrubs, waiting for his plastic-faced dad to say something. He just twitched his head in a get-going gesture. Brian left smiling. The two gravitated from opposite directions towards Crossroads, a giant star in the middle of nothing so bright there was no need for flashlights on long country roads. They saw each other's silhouettes in the distance and quickened their paces. Once met, they gave each other a fist bump. Aiden said, "We're not fishing," then pulled out the sickening baby doll from his backpack. "What the fuck is that for?" Brian asked. Aiden replied, "I have an idea." He opened the front pouch of his backpack and revealed a spool of fishing twine. He continued, "See what I'm getting at?" Brian got it, immediately. Not consequences, not life-altering events, or what his parents would think or anything like that, just excitement in a small black hole of a town that's better than staring at a ceiling. It was 11 o'clock. Brian asked, "Where? Down by the corners?" Aiden replied. Brian nodded, and they both paced quickly until they reached the corners of Main and Church Street, atop the hill from which you could see most of the town. They stood in the runoff ravine next to the drainage pipe, tying the fishing line around the doll's feet, and tossed it into the middle of the road and waited crouching low to see the reaction of the passers-by. Their hearts were pounding. Aiden said, "That is going to freak someone out." Above the doll was a blinking yellow light. It illuminated its face in such a creepy way that it came alive when they tugged on the strings. The first car passed by and barely took notice, and drove around it even though they had tugged on the strings to give it the appearance of crawling. "Maybe they thought it was a piece of trash?" Brian asked. "It was perfect! What the fuck?" Aiden exclaimed. It was past midnight before two cars passed, a Honda Civic and a Lincoln Navigator, and still no one had gotten freaked out. They just avoided the doll and kept on going. It occurred to Brian that maybe it was too obvious that it was a doll. Aiden had apparently had the same thought. "We should sit it up in the middle so it stares at the drivers." Brian nodded. "Take the fishing line off too." In agreement, they reeled in the doll and removed the line, then placed it back in the road, sitting up on its opposable legs. Its head lolled on its shoulder, creepily staring down the road under the blinking light. The wind rustled its hair in the dark. Aiden said, "We're fishing for fear. Think it'll work?" Brian was about to speak when a log truck rolled up to the light and stopped. The air brakes hissed and the passenger door opened. The boys peeked over the ravine and watched as a squat man with a long ponytail opened the cab door. He got out and grabbed the doll. He stared at it for a long moment, then shouted, "Whoever the fuck you are, this could kill somebody! What the fuck are you thinking?" The boys stifled guffaws with their hands and hid in the dirt. The man called out again, "You're fucking stupid!" and then threw the doll into the ravine not far from where they were hiding. He stepped back to the idling truck, tripped its gears, and drove on. "Fuck that guy," Aiden said, then put the doll back where it was. But this time he retied the twine around its leg, thinking to pull the thing away if someone stopped again. They could run if need be. The waiting was mind-numbing from that point on. They hunched down and checked their Facebooks for a while. This life, this is living, and the only thing to stave off boredom is to find more and more extreme ways to find excitement. Aiden's eyes lit up. He said, "I think Jamie likes me. She just liked a comment I made months ago." Brian clicked the shutter of his phone, said, "That means she was looking through your old stuff. Nobody does that unless they're interested in you." Then he grinned, "Or they're a psycho." "Nah, she added me, then hasn't said a word to me ever, not even in person." Brian agreed. "She wasn't a psycho, just an FB friend hoarder. 1,200 friends on Facebook and she suddenly likes one of my comments," Aiden concluded. "She likes me." Just as Brian was about to reply, they heard a car coming. The low hum of its engine got louder and louder. The person was speeding, and Brian and Aiden noticed. They both realized the terror of the moment and began to pull the doll back frantically. "Shit!" Aiden cried. The driver cut the wheel to the right, but the momentum forced the car left. It skidded and drifted sideways over the ravine. They ducked, and Brian could momentarily see the undercarriage of the car as it floated sideways over them. He heard a thud and instantly thought, "Oh Christ, Aiden just got his head knocked off." The car gained its bearings and came to a full stop in the street. It ended up back on the road facing the opposite direction from which it came. Brian peeked his head up, looked over at the driver who couldn't see him, then looked down at his friend who lay prone with his eyes shut. He's dead, Brian thought, and watched as the driver put his car in gear and drove off as if nothing happened. I don't want to know that my friend is dead. He walked over to the floor of the ravine, knelt at his friend's feet, and began to cry. Aiden opened his eyes and looked around, realized distantly that Brian was crying. Then suddenly he jerked up and screamed, "You thought I was dead, didn't you?" Brian nearly jumped out of his skin and screamed, "You fucking asshole!" He sniffled back a few tears and said, "Are you hurt?" Aiden said, "No, I don't think so." He just sat up, said, "It knocked me over." The gravity of the situation hit them both, but neither really accepted anything. They both began to stare at the doll which had been crushed, its face horribly smashed, and its stuffing-filled belly had been eviscerated. Here and there chunks of hair drifted into the night sky. Aiden said, "It was a good death," then saluted the doll. Brian said, "It was a good night."